Ah, rah. All right, let's talk about it. There's a comedian. Well, I don't know if he's a comedian or not. It's entertainer. His name is TikTok Vic. I would normally post the link in the description, but I was listening to him, and he was talking about conspiracy theorists, and he was going back in history, talking about back when the Spanish flu was around and 50 million people died, which is accurate. More than 50 million people died. There was no one talking about conspiracy theorists and things of that such. I'm going to get back to the Spanish flu. He's right. There was no one talking about conspiracy theorists. We have more access to information today than those people who were victims of the so-called Spanish flu. Now, I'm going to get back to the Spanish flu soon. I I struggle to stay on task sometimes when I make these because I don't plan them. It's just sort of like inspiration. Um, and so let's talk about conspiracy theorists just for a second. For the last 27, 28 years, it started in college. From 90 to 94 is when I was introduced to the information that people would describe as conspiracy theories. And I delved hard into it over the you know, from all ranges: science, Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot, 9/11, uh, cancer. I dove hard into all of them because I was born with a why disease. Why this? Why that? Why I just never be satisfied? I must have drove my mother insane with why. The thing about diving into information like that, as far as it's my experience, you don't realize how deep you go sometimes, and it's hard to get out of that hole. I mean, you just look and every time you find information, for me it was like three new questions were raised, and so now I have to go through that. And after 26, 27 years of just diving into the whys and the conspiracies, you I almost got lost in the whys and the conspiracies. I spend a lot of time on solutions now. What's the solutions? Because going into people's evil intent for coming up with doing vaccines and things of that such, I did it. What Bill Gates? Bill Gates is not a scientist. Bill Gates is not a doctor. It amazes me that just because he has money, that people follow and shake their head yes, yes to anything that's coming out of his mouth, even though he's on camera talking about using vaccinations to manage world populations. Are you kidding me? You kidding me? Miss me with that, Bill Gates. You will not be injecting me with anything. Are you? I know what's in those vaccines. Are you insane? You got to be insane. If you drop a vaccine and it spills, the doctor's about to submit you with a vaccine and he drops it and it spills, it has to be treated like a poison spill, like a chemical spill. Okay? You'd be surprised at the poisons in aborted fetuses and things of that such that doctors have testified in session uncomfortably. I had to answer these questions about what's in these vaccines. No, I will not be taking your vaccines, and good luck to you if you decide to do that. So I've been labeled a lot of things. So if anti-vaxxer is not a label, that offends me. I know what vaccines are. I'm not taking that. Are you kidding me? It's my body. So TikTok Vic was, talking about how, back then nobody was talking about conspiracies. TikTok Vic, listen, I think you're entertaining, but let me tell you something. People didn't have the information we have today. Common people, nothing special about me. I know more about nutrition than your average doctor. That's a fact. They don't study that in school. In those mind control Rockefeller institutions that you all respect as higher learning for people pursuing the title of doctoral, being a doctor, y'all respect that. The white coat, stethoscope, oh, you respect that. And anything that comes out of people's mouth, you respect that. Let me tell you something. 1915, ticked off Vic. Bayer lost their application for a patent to patent aspirin. And so a bunch of companies got together and started, mass producing these aspirins. And people were popping them like candy. Why? Because people blindly believe anything that comes out of their doctor's mouths. You get a fever, you got to take this aspirin. Let me tell you something about fever. Your body's more intelligent than you are. Are you kidding me? So taking anything that stops a fever is insanity now. I know you don't understand that. And so I'm posting a very important link in this description so that you can get a better understanding of why fevers are utilized, or how fevers are utilized by the body. So I don't have to go into it and regurgitate information that is easy for you to just ingest for yourself, because the information is not coming from me. I have a wide disease. I look for information, and when it resonates, I share it. So no breaking. You do not want to interfere with a fever when a fever is in place. Okay. And you'll know that if you take the time to look at the video in the description. Now, Spanish flu, I said I wanted to get back to that because TikTok Vic was talking about how there was no conspiracy theories back then with the Spanish flu. Let me tell you something about the Spanish flu. First off, there was nothing Spanish about the Spanish flu. So all my Spanish people, breathe easy and hold your heads up. Spanish flu had nothing to do with Spanish people. Let me tell you what the Spanish flu had everything to do about, TikTok Vic. World War II. World War One, I'm sorry. 1918. And during that time, we were also putting up towers, even back then. Towers. And these towers back then, for telegraphs and things of that such, was causing chemical poisoning in the cells of our bodies. Facts. Just sort of like 5G is doing today. Facts. So, and in addition to that, another interesting thing for during World War II is, we had soldiers, go fight in World War One. Why am I saying World War II? Well, I'll get to World War II in another video. We're on World War One right now, okay? World War One. Soldiers who were going into World War One were convinced by their doctors in white coats and stethoscopes to take this vaccine. A series of vaccines, 14 to 25 different vaccines in 1918. And the rationale was you're going to fight in a foreign country that's very diseased, infested. And so these vaccines are going to protect you. And the soldiers followed what they were told to do. They took the vaccines, and whether they were deployed overseas or remained in the States, they took these vaccines. Here was the problem. And I'm going to get to the solution at the end. I won't keep this long. Here's the problem. World War One didn't last that long. And so these doctors were stuck with inventory that they couldn't get rid of because they expected to be able to continually supply soldiers as the war progressed. But it didn't last that long. So these soldiers are about to come home, and these pharmaceutical companies still had all of these vaccines on hand. They had to get rid of them somewhere. They're going to make their money. So what they did was they put out propaganda to the public and said, listen, your soldiers, your husbands have been fighting in foreign countries, and they have been exposed to diseases, and they're going to be returning home. And so you need to take these vaccines to protect you from these diseases that the soldiers are going to be bringing from back home. And so they sold the remaining vaccines to the wives and the American citizens to program them and protect that they will be protected from their husbands and brothers and whatever's coming back from the war who have been exposed to disease. So they injected the soldiers who left, and they injected the American citizens who returned. Facts. Interestingly enough, those who did not get injected with these vaccines did not die from the Spanish flu. They called it the Spanish flu to divert blame and not allow people to make any connection that the reason they were actually dying from the so-called Spanish flu is because they've been injected with these vaccine poisons. Oh my gosh. And it's right there in the literature. You just have to read. You have to develop a wide disease and read. So TikTok Vic, there you go. Spanish flu had nothing to do with Spanish people. It had everything to do with the vaccines that were administered and the towers that were put up during that time period, a new toxin introduced to the cells in the bodies. He put these cells all over the world because they needed to be able to communicate all over the world, telegraph and things as such. Well, anytime that we're exposed to new toxins at the cellular level, there are going to be reactions. And the vaccines did not help. The vaccines actually added to the problem. So, you want to call me an anti-vaxxer? Absolutely call me an anti-vaxxer. I am. My youngest daughter was taken from me on the day she was born because I refused to allow the doctors to vaccinate her on the day she was born, and I still don't have her home now. This is a new fight for you all with the coming vaccination for the Kobe cooties. We've been fighting this issue with vaccines for the last 3 years. On November 4th, 2017, my daughter Violet was born. She was taken from me hours after she was born because I refused to let them vaccinate. Facts. I've been fighting this war longer than some of you. And it's not fun. But I have to remain a level head. And while I'm remaining a level head and still fighting for the return of my daughter, I want to do what I feel like I'm spiritually instructed to do, to give you a chance to see a different perspective so you can decide what's right for you in your life. Okay, you don't have to support anything that's going on in mine, and you don't have to just oh my God, I can't believe that your daughter was taken, I'm so sorry, such. I appreciate all that, but the fight will continue. I'm handling my fight, but at the same time, I was told a long time ago that a man draws a circle around his family. Good man does that. A better man draws a circle around this neighborhood, and the best men draw their circle around humanity. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best man, but I am doing my part to shine light on the roaches today that are walking around in white coats and stethoscopes. Now, I'm not saying that doctors are bad people. They're not. They're like any other sheeple that's been controlled, because you can't get through medical school unless you do things their way. And there's a reason why people don't get through medical school, because they weed them out. Anybody who might not do things their way, they weed out. And they do a really good job at weeding them out. And if you should happen to get through medical school with a strong spirit intact and not motivated by money, if they see patterns of you not practicing the way you've been instructed to practice, or mind control was used to have you practice, they'll take your license from you. Ask Dr. Jennifer Daniels. Look her up. YouTuber. Jennifer Daniels. Happened to her. She didn't do anything. License taken from her. Why? Because she wasn't motivated by money. I love you, C-Star. And she had to leave the country. Okay? She's living in the jungle now. Okay? And giving out information for free to help you avoid the Kobe cooties and things of that such. You need to check into her. I'm giving Dr. Daniels her flowers. Jennifer Daniels her flowers now. There you go. So look her up. Don't lose your train of thought, Mike. Don't lose your train of thought. So back to the solution. Potassium, sulfur. My gosh, could it be that simple? Pharmaceutical companies can't make money off of potassium and sulfur. It's inexpensive and it's abundant. And it's an essential magnetic salt that the body needs for combustion. Oh my God, that did not come from me. That was spirit. That did not come from me. But I'm linking the link in the description because it's important that you know what a cold actually is and what a cold is not. Okay? Because you've been lied to. You have been lied to. And they have put a different name for the same symptoms according to classification, to classify people. If you're a respectable mom, who raised a family, and you go to the doctor and you get labeled with the condition lupus, well, he treats you for lupus, and that's your condition, and you're a respectable mom. If you're a junkie who has a history of drug use and you're female and maybe you've been a prostitute, with similar symptoms, you get classified as HIV positive and you get AIDS medications. And now with the Kobe cooties, they're telling you that the same hydroxychloroquine that's being used to treat malaria historically and used to treat lupus. Now, what does lupus have anything to do with malaria? You should look into that. And now it's being proposed to treat the Kobe cooties. You need to ask yourself, and the Kobe cooties is supposedly related to SARS. You need to ask yourself the very important question: why does what does SARS, HIV, lupus, and COVID all have in common? My gosh, are you kidding me? These things are not airborne. And so I'm just gonna, stop this video at this point and just provide you a solution. Potassium and iron. That's the solution. There's 12 magnetic salts that we're missing in various degrees. The most important of them are potassium and iron. Okay, there's a reason why you only need 60 milligrams of vitamin C daily, but you need 4,700 milligrams of potassium, which none of you are getting. Okay, and these are the reasons why you're susceptible to the Kobe cooties. And in this video, he goes even further to explain how the various tests, the various research to suggest that these things aren't even contagious. And I know this is going to meet a lot of backlash, but backlash happens as a result of mind control. I don't blame you. I'm not mad at you. If you watch 6 to 10 hours of TV every day and you're programmed through the television programming, I expect you to come at me hard. I'm not even paying attention to you because this message ain't for you. If you disagree with anything that I said, this message is just not for you. Skip it. Go to the next video. Go to somebody else's video. It's fine. But for people who have the Y disease, at least stop looking at me now and check the link in the description. Because the link in the description is what you need to be looking at. You don't need to be looking at me at this point. You need to be looking at the link in the description. Thank you for coming. God bless you. Good night.